Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Conquest Call-In Show Live, the weekly call-in show where you guys are the stars. As always, I'm here with my co-host and editor over at Trojans Wire, Matt Zemek. And for the next hour, it is your show. You guys call us and tell us what you want to talk about. We have some ideas. I got to tell you, after last week's gigantic, massive, star-laden weekend of recruits, USC is followed up again this week, and Andy Hansen and crew and the coaching staff are showing these guys the time of their life here in Los Angeles. Another 19 elite players from across the country coming in to see if they want to become USC Trojans. But remember, this show is about you guys, not even our recruits. Call us. Tell us what you think. Does USC have a roster right now that can compete for a playoff spot? And your thoughts on the huge recruiting weekend this weekend. One more thing I'll throw out there. Is there someone out there from last weekend or this weekend you're thinking maybe might just pull the trigger and go ahead and commit this weekend? Love to hear from you guys. Love to hear from Trojans, but really love to hear from anyone. We got any Buckeyes out there? We got any Wolverines? If we have any Hoosiers out there, give us a call. Let us know what you think about the SC program. It is your show. Matt, how are you doing this week?
Well, I'm waiting for some splashes. That's what I'm waiting for. And USC got some momentum in June of last year, but it then fizzled out in July. Let's see if USC can get this train rolling and then keep it rolling. Lot on the line, a message for USC to send on the recruiting trail with this new look defensive coaching staff. So it's go time for USC, and it's a prove it moment for this staff. Obviously, the ultimate prove it moment begins with LSU. So a little bit of perspective there, but let's see what this staff can certainly do over the next month and a half.
Yeah, I really think a lot of people in the past that we had. Someone was in my Twitter saying, "Yeah, we've had a lot of great weekends in the past and nothing." And here's another one with nothing. I think it's a little bit different now. I think with NIL, there's a little bit of posturing goes on. You're using that. You want to use these visits almost as a bargaining tool. These guys literally have agents now. So I think a little bit of patience might be in order. We have our first caller, but you guys, before we get started, if you haven't already subscribed, you guys, it would mean the world to us here on the channel. If you want to join us, we'll be going live throughout the summer. News breaks. We get a big recruit come in and we get a commitment. We'll go live. But again, the time where quiet was good. Now we want to start hearing some news. A couple of weeks ago, if you heard something that's probably bad, now we want some good news to roll in. As always, to start off our show, I know this phone number. Gary from Dana Point, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's good to see you both back together, the triumphant twins, as I like to think of you both. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Well, I'm a little off the target here of the topic of the day, but I'm going to do it anyway because last week I missed my chance. But Matt's back, and Matt, you made reference a couple of weeks ago to Cicero, and Cicero, a philosopher, politician in the days of Rome. And I haven't read it for a long time, but I was reminded of something that he said. He said that in life, all you really need is a good book and a garden. A good book and a garden. What in the world could go wrong with that? Well, of course, shortly thereafter, he was assassinated. So things can go wrong under any circumstance. But what I'm getting at here today is that, and my friend Vernon says that he's suffering from speculation overload, and I think we all are. But I have the following question. I'm concerned. The recent court case, I think it was the House case, House versus NCAA, who now ruled that unlimited transfers, no limitations whatsoever. And I just want to posit the following question. I'm concerned about college football losing its luster. There was nothing like tuning on a Saturday and watching game after game after game. I don't care if it was Mississippi and Ole Miss, all these rivals, all these partisan fans so excited about it. And yet now we're having transfers like crazy. And I'm just wondering if we're losing a little bit of our luster. I'm wondering if some of our great rivals are going to be diminished somewhat in value because it, as some person I know called it, have more and more mercenaries on our roster. And I'm just wondering if the luster of college football is going to be lost. Now, the way college football became a multi-billion-dollar business was the intense rivalry across the country, game after game after game. And it's like the goose that laid the golden egg. And I'm just wondering if the egg isn't going to kill the goose. Because if we become an NFL league, a lower division NFL league, that's certainly going to diminish the luster. And, you know, if we become a G League, I mean, when's the last time you ever went or watched a G League game? You don't. Now, maybe this is fairly far-fetched, but I worry about the polish and the luster of college football somehow being dimmed and darkened a little bit by the onslaught of what we're having to deal with right now. What are your thoughts?
Go ahead.
Well, Gary, let me ask you this question as a way of responding. And I mean, like, you bring up, you know, really thoughtful points as always. But I would say this. I mean, like, we know that we're in a new era, right? With USC going to the Big Ten and with the transfer portal and with NIL, and it's basically free agency has come to college sports. And is that the worst thing in the world? Like, am I going to sit down on Saturday? And this is my question to you, Gary. Like, when you watched USC go into Legion Field and beat Alabama and beat them badly in 1978, like, was your experience enhanced by just knowing that, you know, Charles White had a certain grade point average, or that, like, you know, that he was not going to transfer out of USC, or that he didn't transfer to USC? Like, is it that much of an enhancer of your experience on Saturdays? And if it is, hey, fair point, all's fair in love, war, and college football. But I mean, at a certain point, you know, this is an entertainment business. Nice, Santiago. Very nice. It's an entertainment business. And, you know, like, I bring up USC Alabama as opposed to like any other game from like the 1970s, any other classic USC game from days of yore, because, Gary, we know Bear Bryant was paying players behind the scenes, right? Like, you know, it's not something that was covered 24/7 by the media. We didn't have Twitter back then, but, you know, like, we know. And, like, you know, we know that Sam Gilbert was paying players at UCLA to play for John Wooden. So, like, you know, we can still enjoy Bear Bryant and respect him as one of the great coaches of all time. Same for John Wooden at UCLA. But, you know, things were going on, and they weren't documented as much then. It was much more hush hush. It was much more behind the scenes. And I guess my basic point, Gary, is, was this enterprise ever really pure as the driven snow? That's really my point. And in many ways, Gary, I'm just encouraging you to, you know, relax and enjoy it, right? You know, to not worry about too much about the business and the litigation and these other things. I mean, you know, I could choose to, you know, be really, really outraged by, you know, the loss of tradition, the loss of the classic Big Ten Pac-12 Rose Bowl, because USC, Oregon, Washington, UCLA are moving to the Big Ten. I mean, you know, and I'm sad. Like, I think it sucks. I mean, you know, Adam Lamparello, I know that he's right there with me on that. I lament the loss of tradition, Gary, but in the bigger scheme of things, in terms of what we lose and in terms of what we still have, like, am I going to walk away from college football, or am I going to view my college football experience as, you know, not worth following through on anymore because of these things? Not really. Like, when it's Saturday, 12:30 p.m. and the CBS college football music comes on, like, I'm going to be fired up, you know? And I think that's just my message to you, Gary, and anyone else who might be a little bummed out at where the industry is headed. You know what? when you get down to the kickoff, the whistle, the band playing, you know, there's always that, and like we will always have that, and it doesn't mean that the bad stuff ceases to exist, but like let's enjoy these experiences while we have them, because they've been a formative part of our lives. I know I'm going to hand it over to Tim. He'll be able to give his own thoughts, but you know what? Just enjoy it when it happens. And I think I would say, you know, the off season, this is the time to, you know, lament everything that's happening right now. But boy, when we get to Labor Day weekend, we're all going to be excited for USC, LSU, and no one should feel bad about having to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear both of you guys, and both of you guys bring up valid points. No, we don't want, like you called it, you know, the G League. I've said it's, you know, NFL light, and no one's going to watch that. When it loses its regionality, which is already lost. I don't think we can limit. You can't, Gary. We know we can't go back to what it used to be. We can't go back to the 80s and the 90s, even the early aughts. You know, I mean, those days are long gone. And the thing is these student athletes should not have been struggling like they have been for decades, as the universities and the NCAA executives and the coaching staffs all were getting filthy rich. And, you know, sure, a lot of these guys make it to the NFL, but a lot of them blow their knees out. We never hear from them again. And they leave blood, sweat, and tears on their practice field, and we don't know. Some guys come in as freshmen and never even make it onto the field before they have a devastating injury and never play. I like the fact that kids are getting money. I think that they should be paid. I think part of, though, you're talking about lamenting, like I think about the guys. I remember looking over and seeing Brandon Granville in my class, you know, my Spanish class with Brandon Granville, the point guard for USC, you know, and seeing guys. And they were playing on Sundays, and seeing guys they're playing and that was back then was a sports arena. You know, you had that connection, right? And I know guys now, even the young guys, I know they're sitting in the same lecture halls that I sat in, you know, up at USC. There's that connection you have, or as a fan, you know, knowing that guy played for my school, you know, my team, and on Sundays you get that pride. So, you know, you say Marcus Allen, USC, right? I mean, you hear that on television. What are they going to say now? Like, list off 4 teams they played for while they were in college. A lot of these things are losing the plot on what we grew up and love, but just like life and everything evolves. The world isn't the way it was when I was a kid, you know, in the 80s, kicking around LA. It's a completely different place, and times change and people move, but I think, Matt, I'm in between both of you guys. What are we gonna do? Stop watching college football? I'm gonna keep watching. We're gonna keep watching, Gary. You know you're gonna keep watching, Gary. I hope, and I know they won't be able to do this, but wouldn't it be great if they take this $21 million, they spread it out pretty evenly, and so no kids are starving, and then the true NIL, meaning your true superstars, can go out and get these brand deals that are actual brand deals, not collectives, bargaining and paying for the highest bidder to get a defensive tackle or a quarterback, you know, a star corner. Wouldn't it be great if we got back to, we're not getting back to amateurism, but can we get back to competition where kids go to play for universities? Because that's what it is. Now they're going for a paycheck. And I think that might be what you're talking about, that separation where now it's not about, I love this school. You know, some kids are about the education, some kids are about the location, some kids are about the coaching staff, whatever. But there was a reason they were coming, not because any school might throw me, you know, $750,000. So now I want to go play. You know, I was a USC fan. I've been a lifelong Trojan fan, but dude wrote me a $750,000 check. I'm getting my ass up there. I'm gonna buy a house. I'm gonna buy my parents a house. I'm gonna go crazy with the money. And that's where we're at right now. I think that might be ruining the game.
Well, I can respond to Matt, and just briefly, because this is probably so off topic, we put a lot of people to sleep, but I recognize that college football wasn't filled with amateurs. Okay, I recognize that. But I also know that right now we're frustrated because we're not buying the right players, and there's a little bit of that going on. But yes, I'll watch college football till my last breath. I'll watch it from the first game on Saturday to the last game at midnight. You know, but I'm a dinosaur. I'm from another era, and you know, I don't. My only life is to watch college football. So it was just a thought, and like I said, my friend Vernon said speculation overload. Well, I guess I succumbed to it. But anyway, thank you guys for your thoughts. I value them greatly, and I just appreciate both of you so much. So thank you, and fight on.
Gary, just before you go off the air, just want to say, you're not a dinosaur. You're a person of character. That's the way I choose to view it.
There's room for all of us, Gary.
Well, thank you.
And we love this sport, and it's not going anywhere. We just gotta find. I think I really do believe. Call me the optimist. Matt's gonna laugh because I am the optimist. I think that somehow it's gonna round itself out. I think that it's gonna have to be some kind of legislation. Obviously, it's got to be Congress. God forbid, has to get involved. But that's really probably what it's gonna take to get this thing. Maybe in 53 years I might figure it out. But I mean, they will get something to where there is some semblance of order. Right now, the Wild Wild West going crazy, make up your own rules. USC was, it seems like they've been 5 steps behind in NIL this entire time. Maybe eventually we can get to that place where we don't love it. We can go back and we can cherish the old days and hold them dear to our hearts, but we can stomach what's going on. And I really do believe that eventually we're in a situation that none of us will like, but all of us could probably handle. That's what I'm praying for before they chase too many fans off. So thank you, Gary. Appreciate you calling in as always.
Well, thank you. And you said there's room for all of us. Would you mind talking to my wife? All right. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye, Gary. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll talk to your wife. You talk to my wife because I think sounds like we're in the same boat. So yeah, let's do that. Great call as always, starting us off, Gary. Thank you so much. I was wondering, we can always count on Gary, Matt, to call in. If we only have one call, and quite frankly, I could end it right now. But we got another call. Hold on a second. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? I think I know this is.
Hey, Tim, it's Adam calling from Georgia. How's it going?
Hi, Adam. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. I just had a quick comment about the upcoming college football playoff. So if you look from 2019 to 2020, LSU was number 1 in the final poll. Wisconsin was 8. From 20 to 21, Alabama was 1st. Cincinnati was 8th. Iowa State was 10th. 2021 to 22, Georgia was 1st. Notre Dame was 8th. And then in 22 to 23, Georgia was 1st. Washington was 8th. Tulane, in fact, was 9th with 2 losses. And then last year, Michigan was 1 and Missouri was 8. My point is that I do not understand the point of having a 12-team college playoff when teams 6 through 12 arguably are going to have 0 chance of winning the national championship. So what's the point of expanding the field? Because if you look at these numbers from the last 5 years, there's no way these number 8, number 10 teams would have had a chance. So one of the things I thought about was, why not have a best of 3 series between number 1 and number 2, where the number 1 gets the first home game, the second game is at the number 2 place, and then the third game is at a neutral site, or have teams 4 and 5 do a play-in for the 4th spot. Because it seems to me like the 12-team playoff is completely useless because there's no realistic chance of most of the teams winning it. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on that.
2 things: money and money. On 2 different levels. So let's take it just as the actual playoff, right? Yeah. That thing is going to be something that sports is, obviously Super Bowl is in its own little world, but that playoff is going to be something that the sports world has never seen before. It's going to be just a cash cow. Why you went out in the second part of money is because you've already alienated how many teams? Like, we know this consolidation of the Big Ten and the SEC has now made the rich richer and the poor poorer. It was already a situation like that. The Pac-12, the Big 12, the ACC, the Power 5, as we were calling ourselves. Well, you had 2 conferences making a crap ton of money and the other one's falling behind every single year. So what happens is you need to keep the reason why there's so much money in these contracts isn't from just the SEC and the Big 10, which is a big part of it, but it's the rest of the country is tuning in to watch television throughout the country. You need to keep the rest of the country involved, kind of like with college basketball. You can look at those 64, what now is it, 68 teams. You can look at I can't remember what the count is now anymore when they play in, but you look at that. Do you think those 16 teams have a chance of winning? I mean, maybe the 15 might get every once in a while a blue moon getting a huge upset, but do they have a chance of winning? People tune in because their team gets into the tournament, and people will tune in because their teams will have auto bids and will be involved. So they'll you're enfranchising a whole bunch of different regions of the country. I don't know what you think, Matt, but that's why I think that it will constantly grow. It might even get bigger than 12 for all we know.
It is about money and it is about television, Adam. And the other thing to remember is, there was a time when like the Boise States of the world didn't get their shot in a BCS Bowl. And then Chris Peterson beats Oklahoma in that Fiesta Bowl. Like, that's a reminder that, first off, the little guy just wants the chance to beat the big guy. It's less about will the little guy win. It's more about give the little guy his shot. That's one thing. But the second thing is, when the little guy makes things interesting the way Boise State did, it's pretty great television. And so, being able to have these showcases, and I know that we all hated this at USC, but like Tulane beating USC, if you can just kind of remove the USC portion from it, little underdog school beats the blue blood in a bowl game. Like, it was just objectively, it was really good television. It was awful for us. It was awful for Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch, but it was pretty arresting television. So just having the chance to put the little guy on the field, because that didn't happen in the playoff with a 4-team playoff. I mean, Cincinnati getting in 2021, that was the one time that a group of 5 team got into the playoff. But now that's going to be much more regular. And of course, we're going to have the SEC and the Big Ten, USC's new conference, getting most of these spots. But you will have one seat at the table for the little guy, and just giving the little guy that seat at the table, that's a good thing for college football. And the analogy here is with baseball. Tim mentioned college basketball. I think the analogy is with baseball. Now, Adam, I don't know about you, but I'm also a baseball traditionalist. Like, I think we should go back to 1968, and that way we'd have Dodgers and Yankees are playing tonight. We would have had a lot more Dodger-Yankee World Series over the past 15 years if it was 1968 rules, where the team that won the most games in the regular season in your league, you just go right to the World Series. So I prefer a more traditional setup. But you know what? I can admit this, that the expanded wild card, all these playoff berths in baseball, which, to me, I don't like it. And actually, right now, you look at the National League, we might have a sub 500 wild card team the way things are going. So that's bad. But purely as a business decision, you consider all those teams, the 5th, 6th seeds in the NL, and then like the teams that are chasing them for those final wild card spots. Those games, you have just dozens and dozens of games in August and September that become meaningful, which under the old system would not have been meaningful. So purely as a business decision, this has really worked for Major League Baseball. You are selling a lot of tickets, a lot more tickets for several franchises in each league in August and September. So like, that's part of this. You're selling more tickets. You're sustaining fan interest. It's not just the BCS where it was 1 versus 2, and basically none of the underdogs had any prayer under that system. The 4-team playoff provided a little more access, but now with 12, you're going to have a lot more fan bases interested in November. Television ratings, ticket sales, like, this is just the way sports operate these days. Kind of what Tim said earlier when talking about NIL. Like, things evolve. The demands of the business, the dollars that are on the line, these businesses need to do things that are going to keep revenue streams flowing in. And so much as baseball having the 3 wild card spots, 12 college football playoff teams, it's the same basic philosophy in terms of generating revenue from many different streams, many different avenues.
Right.
And as Adam said, it is good guys 2, bad guys nothing, bottom of the 11th. Go. And by the way, Matt, you mean we can skip the playoff? As a Dodger fan, we can skip the playoffs, go straight to the World Series if you win if the most wins in the National League? Hell, I'm going to take that as well. So let's do it.
Dodgers would have been in the World Series nearly every year over the past several years. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's why I like
games
it.
that get launched in the first round.
Yeah.
Guys, the last thing I'll say, because I want you to get into other callers, of course, is my fear is that there's no realistic chance for any of these teams like 7 through 12 to have a shot at the title. Now, I saw in the comment section people were reacting negatively to me saying, why not a best of 3 series between number 1 and 2? Well, we do that in college baseball. And isn't the goal here to find out who the best team in the country is? I mean, in 2002, Miami should have won the national title against Ohio State if it wasn't for a ridiculous PI call in overtime. In 2006, yeah, we lost to Vince Young and Texas on that 4th and 6. But I think if we played 2 out of 3 in both of those instances in 02 and 06, there would have been a different result. And since we do it in other collegiate contexts, why not do it here instead of having a 12-team college football playoff when half of the teams don't have a realistic chance of winning? But that's just my take. Thanks again for taking my call, guys, and great show as always.
Thank you for being here, Adam. Appreciate you being here as well.
Thanks a lot.
Adam, I would just say football is just not the sport where you do best of series. It just isn't. It's the one game. It's the big game. It's the big stage. If you want a reform, Adam, in terms of, discovering who the best teams are, here's my big reform. Conference championship games now, in my mind, are obsolete in terms of determining the best college football team. Now, I know that conference champions get the top 4 seeds, but really, with 12 teams in the playoff, do you really need Alabama and Georgia to play an SEC championship game? They're already going to be in the playoff. What we need to have is the conference championship games. Like, we need to keep them as television properties. So like a game's still going to be played in Atlanta or Indianapolis or Charlotte or Arlington on that first Saturday of December. But instead of having the 2 best teams in each conference, which are already going to be in the 12-team playoff, what you do is you turn it into a play-in game between 2 teams that are right on the boundary. Like, you want that game to be between 2 teams that are 10-2, and are would be like a 10, 11, 12 seed or just outside that number 12 seed. You put those 2 teams that are on the boundary and you basically have a play-in game. But it's in Atlanta, Indy, Charlotte, Arlington, the sites of those power conference championship games. That's the reform that I think we should have, and that would help determine the best teams in the playoff field.
Yep, agreed.
Great points, Matt. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Adam. Fight on. We'll see you next week.
Have a great night. All right.
We got a super chat. Thank you so much, Roy Banuelos. These guys aren't familiar with Roy. He's been here since the very beginning, supporting us. Appreciate it. His son, Micah Banuelos, is the interior offensive lineman for USC. Love the underdog story. I think USC is going to shock a lot of people. The people that don't know, they might think we're underdogs. I really like USC's chances if they stay healthy. Caller, hang on one second. On Mark's national show earlier today, I said that for those guys that played the old NCAA football games, you know what I'm talking about. There's like a slider for injury, right? You could set it from like 100% or 10 to 0, whatever, and you could turn off injuries. If I could turn off injuries for 2024, I really like our odds in the Big Ten. I mean, I think the way we match up against a lot of people, sure, we are going to have some issues, stopping the run late in games. I know we will. We're going to be thin in the middle. But I like our starting 22. I just really do. The key is going to be, and also there's a slider for stamina, right? So your guys will get tired. You can turn off the fact that guys get tired too, which usually then if you got tired, the guys would get injured. Anyway, I'm not go down that road. But in real life, that's the same thing. If we could turn those sliders down, I'm far more confident. I still think we have a much better season than most people give us a chance for doing. But I tell you, we just need guys at certain positions to say. I don't want to say their names even because I don't want to hex this thing. But I absolutely think that USC is going to shock some people, Roy. I think that we have depth on the offensive line that we haven't had recently. I think our secondary, and I keep the second week in a row, is going to be lights out this year. I think if we keep our linebackers healthy, I think that crew just takes a quantum leap up. Coach Baugh and Entz. I just think those linebackers are going to write some storylines through the games. Everyone's not going to give us much of a chance on defense. You watch those guys show out. I think that the linebackers are going to have a great season. Matt, you want to throw anything else on that?
If USC does stay healthy, I agree. Like I do like our front line talent on the depth chart, our number ones. but football is an attritional sport, and usually it doesn't work out that you have perfect health through a season. But insofar as, just the specific contours and parameters of your point, Tim, I agree. I love our starters, but the depth just is not there, especially on the defensive line. And that's my main concern.
And before we shove off again, Gary, again, thank you. We should be paying you for your phone calls. Gary, thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you being here, and we appreciate the super chat as well. Caller, sorry for keeping you waiting. You're on with Matt. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, good, guys. Dave from Iowa.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Good. Well, in terms of a Friday, I can't complain after, watching 2 days of track and field and watching today, and, can't wait for tomorrow to see how USC finishes up. But so in terms of my question, just now I saw On3's visitor list for USC, and I, was pleased to see Malik Autry, who's a Auburn commit, nose tackle at 6'5", like 325 or something like that. And happy to see it. Hopefully we get his commitment. But is it kind of like we're throwing all of our chips into like this one nose tackle, or, is there a mindset of getting more than one huge nose tackle? Or do you think in terms of the D linemen that USC is recruiting, do you think that there are projections there that these guys that are at 285, 290 in high school can hit that, 305, 310 mark at the collegiate level?
Matt, want me to go, Matt? I can go if you want.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I said a long time ago, I was saying when they were not going after, it's not like so there was some news that came out recently. I can't remember who it was. God, it was one of the nose tackles that we went after. If someone in the chat can remind me, said, yeah, SC threw $400,000 at me. He actually gave a number, right? He said between 200 and 400, which I thought was weird. I would think if someone's going to give you 400,000, like if someone told me it was 3,825,000, I would know that number to the penny if someone said, hey, we're kind of thinking this. But he said that they came after him pretty hard with the money. But I just don't think that USC is going to, I don't think USC is going to overpay. And I think that was the situation you had. We talked about ad nauseum on this show, the fact that when God didn't make too many people that are 6'2" to 6'4", 310 to 340 pounds on this planet. There just aren't that many of them. And I don't think in college football, or really in football in general, no, not everybody is an Aaron Donald, but you don't have to play at 220 320 in the interior line. You don't need to do that. Where I worry about is depth, like you just got to there. If we have quality backups, because you can't play the entire game with one nose tackle the whole game, that you're going to have a rotation. If USC could have just quality guys in there that are not going to be gashed, right? The offense is not going to run right at them. That's all you're going to need. Because we keep forgetting one thing. We're going to score a lot of points. We just are, and my worry is that the schools that can do it, like a Michigan, we're going to sit there and they're going to just basically body blow us for 3 quarters, kind of like what they did a couple years in a row to Ohio State, body blows for a couple, and all of a sudden the fourth quarter, the floodgates open up. Because why? Because your team is smashed and gashed on defense, and they give it up that way. If this defense can get off the field, if we have guys, I don't care who emerges, on the team that can give us some good minutes in the interior defensive line, to give Bear Alexander a break, right? To give Kobe Pepe a break, because he looks like he's going to be our day one starter. If you have those guys that can rotate in there and give these guys a breather, the young freshmen or anyone they could bring in, that's going to be key to the season about winning against those tough teams. A lot of these teams, I'm going to say it right now, on our schedule, I'm not too worried about, but there are teams in there with really good. I mean, LSU has 2 of the best tackles in the country. They're going to run right at USC. So we'll see how they handle that. And then I could talk from there. So I don't know. I don't want to go too much detail on it because we don't know what the young guys are going to bring. We don't know. You were talking about putting some weight on. Let's say what was the kid is like 275, 285. He packs under 10 pounds, gets 295, 300. Then maybe people aren't freaking out so hard. I don't know, Matt, what do you got?
Well, I mean, USC is undergoing a transition in terms of its philosophy, in terms of strength and conditioning. So, like that's a something that we're not going to know how effective the switch in the strength and conditioning points of emphasis are until the season starts. So, like that's something, Dave, that's kind of lurking underneath the surface of this conversation, and we're not really going to get more solid answers and really until the season begins and unfolds. So that's part of it. But I do fundamentally share Tim's view that I don't think USC is going to overpay for individual players. And I would say that whether that's the right approach or not, that's really a debate that we have had to an extent. It's a debate that's worth continuing to have. But I would say that in this 2024 cycle, I think it probably was worth it for USC to overpay for a run stuffer, a really big guy in the middle, just because that was an aching point of need, and also because Isaiah Rakes slipped through the cracks. He seemed to play USC like a fiddle because he exploited that SEC transfer rule where you can't directly transfer to another SEC school and get playing time, but you can transfer somewhere else. So he goes from A&M to USC in the winter, and then he goes to Auburn in the spring, and looky here, he'll play for Hugh Freeze. So I just think he exploited that loophole. But because Rakes did get away, I think there was value in overpaying to not only get a position of acute need, but also to send a message to Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, others that, hey, we're serious. We're here to play ball. And I think sometimes I don't believe in overpaying as a general rule, but I do think there are specific situations in which the overpay sends a message and can carry a residual benefit. I did think that an interior run stuffer was worth an overpay for the 2024 cycle, but as we look ahead to 2025, and this June recruiting weekend, like this is where USC, in many ways, Dave, this is where USC can avoid the need to have to overpay, right? If USC can really hit some home runs over the next month and stack some recruits and build depth, then you won't be in that vulnerable position. So USC might have gotten caught short in the 2024 cycle to the extent that it might have been worth an overpay. But I do think Tim is right as a general rule that USC is not going to try to do that if it doesn't have to.
And I mean, here's the thing. I think you got to look at the classes and the quality of players that USC is courting right now. Then go back and think about earlier, I don't know when it was, beginning of spring, late winter, where they started talking about, hey, House of Victory, we're gonna roll our sleeves up and we're gonna get into the high school NIL game. We're gonna start doing this thing that we're not gonna recruit with one arm behind our back anymore. And then there's also, like I've been alluding to, this staff knows who they're bringing on. Maybe they see something in Carlin Jones, Abasiri, one of these young guys that they say, hey, look, instead of spending $400,000 on one of these guys, why don't we use this time to get these kids ready? I'm not saying they're mailing in the 2024 season. I'm not, but it doesn't seem like they're all in like an Ohio State is, right? Ohio State doesn't have an Uncle Phil. Don't get me wrong. They have a very robust fan base that's willing to give money at all levels of income. I'm not saying that at all, but it just seems like they're really mortgaging the house on this season. I mean, I don't know their financials. I don't know how deep it goes. And then there's Oregon. They have like a billionaire that's willing to throw millions so he can win before he dies. I think USC is looking at saying, yeah, we want to win, but are we going to mortgage the future, or are we going to continue year 3 to build the lines that we need, go after the guys across the country, the defensive linemen across the country, get them in as freshmen, and then hang on to them? Because remember, you don't just have to get these guys in on day one. You also have to keep recruiting them and keep paying them as they stay in your system. So it's young in this game, and I believe SC is invested. I think we're going to see where it goes. Sorry about that for a long-winded answer, Dave.
You're good. In terms of both your guys' response, I totally get where you're coming from. But from my perspective, I'm looking at it. You guys and other USC fans use the term overpaying. I'm curious if the fan base uses the term overpaying because it's a concern of if the ROI, return on investment, so to speak, on that nose tackle is worth it or not, versus the other big dogs, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, the list goes on from that perspective. Do they see it as overpaying, or hey, a competitive offer where the ROI is high for us, or high for them to, to win a national championship or something like that?
I don't see the Georgias. I mean, two of those teams are different than the Georgia. Your Georgia example, Georgia's been doing what USC wants to do and it appears to be trying to do, meaning building the team, trying to get away from the portal and start building it through their high school. I think that Oregon's done a great job of both. I mean, again, they have Phil Knight, who's literally earlier when I was talking about what's wrong with this sport. I'm not saying it's like totally unfair because it's legal to do, but I'm just telling you, when you have a situation where they're completely going beyond what this was supposed to be with NIL and just throwing money and overpaying and saying, we got deeper pockets to everybody, so we're going to out-recruit everybody and we're going to go out there and buy the pieces that we need. And we might even just grab a couple people we don't need to keep them away from other people. That's the college football we're playing right now. Do you think, unless we as fans want to be like a Phil Knight and start throwing, $400,000 to $700,000 at guys that really aren't worth the money, just because we have $50 billion. I don't think USC is in a position to do that right now. I just don't. I think they're doing much better. I think House of Victory does have, and the collectives do have the money for a lot of this, but they're not in the same boat as an Ohio State. They don't have the funds that Oregon has. They're not there yet.
Okay, I understand. I mean, I kind of disagree with you, Tim, but all I'll say is,
if you're going to disagree, explain why you disagree. Don't just say, I disagree. What do you disagree with?
I disagree that in terms of, the six-figure, nose tackle, in terms of Harmon or whatever, again, someone can look at it as overpaying, but if I was USC, I would borderline attempt to match the competitive offer that Oregon gave, because I think there's a better ROI in terms of in-season production in the interior line with him than Kobe Pepe. Just because we at least know what Harmon has done at the Big Ten level. No offense to Kobe Pepe, we barely know what he's done at the Pac-12 level.
It's, again, a valid point. I think everyone's putting way too much. Listen, if Harmon goes up to Oregon and just kills it, then I'll retract my statement that I think that he's good but not great. That he's a solid player but not a difference maker. I'm with you. Do you think that I don't want them to go out and spend money? I'm trying to speculate, you guys. I'm not making these decisions. I'm saying, why would USC do it? Because I think we all agree that USC does have the money, correct? You agree, Dave, that they have the money to spend?
Yes, exactly.
They could have. They could have spent
Mm-hmm.
that money on a nose tackle. Is that position insanely important in football? It absolutely is vital to this season. But what I am also trying to tell you is that there is a reason why they aren't doing it. Okay? And so instead of playing it safe, saying, well, yeah, they're wrong, they should do this, I agree with you. I wish they had. What I'm doing up here, and I don't see a lot of other people doing, is I'm trying to figure out why. And I don't think it's because USC can't or doesn't want to. Do you know what I mean? I think they have a reason. And reasons that I gave was they worked it all out in their head. They're looking at the 2025 class. They're looking big picture. They're looking at who they have coming in. I just said Carlin Jones and Jide Abasiri. Right, and other guys, there's a lot of options they have, and they're gonna have those options. So to recap, so I don't go too long-winded, and the person probably hung up a million hours ago. One, wish we had 2 or 3 more defensive tackles. 2, I think they should have paid, like Matt said, because it's a position of need, and if you have to pay the extra premium in order to get it, because it's supply and demand, then you pay it. There is a reason why I'm saying they don't want to, because by the way, it is an overpayment. For the quality of player you're getting, that kind of money is an overpayment. Is it necessary, like Matt said? It might be. If you're dead set on winning the Big Ten this year, you probably should have made that money. You probably should have thrown that money down. Unless there's something that Matt and you and I don't know that they already have on the roster. a plan they have to mitigate not having that position to rotate players. Because another thing I keep in the back of my head saying, they're looking for guys that are multiple, that are versatile inside, that can move along the line. They're going to probably do some creative stuff. We'll see if it works. But the safe bet was, like you all just said, pay the extra money, get one or two of those guys, and call it a day. There's a reason why they didn't do it. And that's why I'm asking the people that are saying, well, blah, blah, blah. Why? You think that we know more than Riley? You think we know more than Danton Lynn? You think we know more than all the guys, Dave Emmerichs, all those guys in there, they're looking at this whole thing as a whole? I highly doubt that.
Gotcha. I understand, Tim. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate talking to you and Matt. I will say, I think the fan base did know that Grinch wasn't the answer last year, and it took Riley 4 losses to get that. But you know what? Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Fight on. Hopefully, the women's track can get it done tomorrow.
Fight on. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for calling in. I just saw this one here. I don't know who this is, but hey, look, ready? 888-997-4539. I don't completely disagree with what you're saying, but screaming with all capitals in the chat when we're in a call-in show, I got to be honest, I don't really look in the chat. The point of this is people call in. So if you want to get on the horn, give us a call, and give your viewpoint. You make a salient point, but then you tell me why Riley and staff is Matt, have I once said we don't need a nose tackle? I mean, have I once said that the entire year? I've been begging for one. And I'm trying to scratch my brain and say, why have they done it? You don't think USC has you don't think House of Victory has $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 for a position of need? I bet they do. I'm saying there's a reason why they didn't do it, Matt, beyond the fact that they're incompetent. I know fans love to say that our coaching staffs are incompetent. Everyone's stupid. No one knows what they're talking about. We know more. I get that. That's the fun of being a fan. But hey, Bless, give us a call. Love to hear from you.
Well, one of the interesting points about Bless and Breaks' comment is that, it does reflect how college football is becoming more like the NFL, right? Would we have seen this kind of comment several years ago? Probably not. So just pointing out, this is part of the NFLization of college football. It's like why Gary from Dana Point and others, don't like the way the sport's heading. That's part of, our discomfort here at the Voice of College Football. The other point to make about overpaying and Derek Harmon, just in case anyone has any lingering thoughts or lingering uncertainties about it, I think there was an extra premium on needing to pay for Derek Harmon only because, or at least primarily because, Isaiah Rakes left. If Isaiah Rakes had not left, then you don't have nearly the same acute need to get Derek Harmon. So I think that at that point really needs to be stressed. And I did make the point about when Isaiah Rakes left that the USC staff, and I know that you can't figure out or predict everything about what a recruit or a transfer portal guy is going to do. But, there was that SEC loophole, that you can't transfer from one SEC school to another. But if you transfer out in winter and you transfer back in spring, you can play. Was that question asked behind the scenes? Was there a vetting process about that? I mean, we don't know, but, just that a guy basically used USC as a way station, that sort of thing, a coaching staff and a larger operations department, they need to be on top of that when they bring a guy in. They need to assess the flight risk. And I'm not going to say that, this is an appalling and unacceptable performance by the coaching staff, just that it was an educational moment. And things in terms of evaluating and making sure that guys really are committed to USC, that slipping through the cracks is why really the Derek Harmon situation got magnified to the extent that it did.
Yeah, and I was standing about 2 feet from Lincoln Riley when someone asked him, to comment on Rakes leaving. And I don't know if I'm reading into it, but he handled it very calmly. But you could tell there was a lot he wanted to say, and not probably the kindest way of saying it. And when you told me that, Matt, about the loophole, I couldn't believe the light bulb came on. I couldn't believe. I was just thinking, oh, it's just more money. But to circumvent the SEC rule about not transferring within the conference, ding, 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 ding. There, I mean, there you go. You just pretty much nailed it, right? Sagar, thank you so much for the $8. I will. Now, I think Chano's is good. I mean, Chano's moved for a while, but now I think it's like a barbecue place. I don't think there is a Chano's anymore. I hate to break it to you. Sagar dormed at the same dorm I was at, Party Tower, so that's also pretty awesome. Thank you, Sagar, for supporting the show. Appreciate you being here. Caller, sorry for making you wait 45 minutes. I'm not kidding. Well, I am kidding, but what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Dan out of Los Angeles.
Dan, nice to talk to you, Dan.
Hello?
What's on your mind?
Hey, yeah, I called last week. I think last week. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he was.
I had two questions. One first off, what you were just saying. I don't know if it was just me, but I don't think USC needs to be paying unless paying premiums for transfer guys for 1 year who aren't instant program changers. Like I don't like kind of I guess kind of like how the NFL is. Like Derek Harmon, if he came to USC, it would be great for the depth. It would probably be really good for defense. But is that one guy going to push USC over the hump and making the playoff or making the top 4 in the playoff? No, he's probably not. So I don't think USC should be out there overpaying or bidding with schools like Oregon, who never makes any, who doesn't win anything, and Texas A&M and things like that. As far as my opinion, as long as they go to Texas A&M, Oregon, and Miami, they're out of the picture for everybody. They're not a threat to anyone because those schools will never win anything. So let them keep going to those schools. But I don't think USC should be paying a premium for a player who's not going to be an instant game changer on defense or offense. That's going to kind of like the wide receiver who came with Caleb Williams. He was an instant. That guy was the number one a top pick. He was a top performing wide receiver. He was worth it. He was a big deal. Someone like that. But I don't think Derek Harmon is on the level of any of those guys. I don't even think that guy is rated as a first round pick, but he still has to play. He may fall to second or third round, but I don't think. I mean, what is your opinion on that? I don't think USC should be overpaying for guys who are not like program changers.
So I hold on. So the one thing I do agree with the conversation with Matt and the other guy in the chat. No, there was a need. There definitely was. So, but what I'm trying to ask them, what I want from them is tell me why USC didn't do it. Because if my schlep brain can figure it out, Matt's much smarter than me. If we could know that we need to have that player, we're trying to pretend like the coaching staff doesn't know that. So I want people to go, yes. That's what people do in the society too often. They look at the problem, but they don't give a solution. Oh, look at this. So if you had to get rid of USC's coaching staff is inept. If we can get rid of that ridiculous like blanket statement fan throw out there and ask yourself, why didn't they throw the money at Harmon? Because I will tell you, Harmon probably would have been the difference between 1 or 2 wins this year. I really do think that. I think that later in the season, SC's made it. And by the way, he would have been our day one starter. He would not have been depth. He would not have been backup. When I say that he's a good player, not a great player, not a difference maker, not a game changer on this defense, there will be a difference not having someone of his quality at nose tackle. But we're assuming, again, I'll go back into who do we have coming in, and also as Kobe Pepe made that leap. What's the Coach Henny effect going to be? If is it significant enough? There are a million reasons. I want someone to say why, and I won't accept the fact that Riley's an idiot. He doesn't care about defense. USC doesn't want to pay money, etc. Blah blah. There is a reason for it, and there's a reason that we're gonna have to let it play out and see. We might be 4 games in. USC might be, 1-3, and we're going, holy crap, we should have paid $1 million for Harmon because we can't stop anything up the middle. That might become, or it might be the fact that they do figure it out. I'm thinking probably to be somewhere towards the middle, more towards the latter.
My response to all this is how do we define a game changer? You know, what does it mean to be a game changer? And for some folks, game changer means it makes you a national championship program. You know, it means that you're like one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the country. If that's the definition of game changer, no, Derek Harmon's not a game changer. But what did Tim just say? Tim said Harmon probably would have been worth one extra win. And to me, if we're talking about the difference between 9-3 and 10-2, that one win makes a huge difference. Now, if it's the difference between 8-4 and 9-3, not nearly as much. But if it's the difference between 9-3 and 10-2, now that we're in the 12-team playoff era, if USC goes 10-2 against that schedule, USC's getting in the playoff. So if there's a belief that Harmon would have taken a 9-win team and made it a 10-win team, to me, that's a game changer, because the difference between 9-3 and 10-2 in the 12-team playoff era is now huge. In the 4-team playoff era, no, it wouldn't have mattered, because you need to go 12-1, right, in the Pac-12 to get into the 4-team playoff. But now that you're in the 12-team playoff era, 9-3 versus 10-2 is massive difference in that one win. So not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we all need to define for ourselves and for each other as a community what it means to be a game changer in 2024 modern college football with the 12-team playoff.
And I'll pose this to both of you guys, actually, and look at it this way. So I remember that we're in the chat right now talking about the Hackett years and the Carroll years. And I remember Pete Carroll's first year. And although they weren't winning, you just saw just something in the team. You just knew that they're playing fundamental sound defense. They're getting better every game. The defense was coming on strong. I just didn't have a running back. You know, I mean, it's a lot of injuries to that team. So God bless you, Sonny Bird. But the whole thing I want to see this season, you guys, is this defense and this defensive staff that they have. And if it turns out that we're just missing the defensive tackle and we go 8-4, right, Matt, then we know what needs to be fixed. We know what's coming in, and I'll bet you they will overpay for that nose tackle if that's the situation. I have to put faith in the coaching staff to know their roster. That's why the other thing I was asking is, do we have a playoff roster? Because I want to hear people calling and yell at me. But the second part of this is there is stuff about this team that we don't know. Even in the media, we get that you go in for a few minutes, you don't get to see the team and how they're coming along and how they're playing. We don't know those guys that came in the spring after having even another 3 or 4 more months of conditioning and Miss Rachel's feeding them, etc. We're going to see what this team looks like in September, and there'll be no way to hide the warts. We're all looking. We know everyone is going to be looking right at the situation where we all thought they needed to fix, and they didn't fix it. Everyone's going to be honed in on that. And if it's fixed, then we'll see. If it holds together, that will be the storyline. We will see. But speculating in May is fun. June is fun. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me everyone's making good points. They're not new points. Everyone's recycling the same points. Tell me why they didn't do it. And then I'll be, then you got my ear, because that's the piece of the puzzle. All the other stuff's not unknown. It's why then? Why wouldn't they? Why would you go to get a Coach Henney? Why would you pay, Riley all that money to buy him out and give him $10 million a year? Why would we do all that, change the entire defensive staff and then go, 400, 700? I don't know if we can afford that. No, there's a reason why they did this.
Yeah. I had one last question if I had time.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know you guys saw the playoff schedule, right, of how it's situated. So my question is, I wonder in the future if these home playoff games are a major success. Do you think the college football would end up changing it around? Because I can imagine the first round being bowl games, and in the top 4 buys, you have to actually go to their house and play. Because I can just imagine. I mean, one thing people in LA do show up for. Can you imagine like a quarterfinal, whatever, playoff game at the Coliseum with USC and the fan base? Like LA people love playoff games. That would be a rowdy, loud event. I can imagine even for Ohio State or whoever in the top four, if they're, I just think, do you think that they will eventually switch if they see those home games, being very successful? And then going back to like, in the semifinal would be like neutral site. Just wondering, because I can see those top four teams looking like, hey, we won a home game, even though they have a bye week.
Yeah, I mean, no, good point. We've all seen what USC can do when they play. Sorry, the USC fans show up for the big games. They just do, and they will. A playoff game, or like for instance, some guy on Twitter was making fun saying, yeah, like USC would be stadium be sold out against LSU. It's like, yeah, it would be sold out if we play that game tomorrow instead of being Allegiant. There would be a sold out stadium. USC would be playing for the 78,000 people without a doubt. Oh, hang on one second. So,
Sure.
So I mean, Matt, playoffs are fun, but let's just talk about winning 10 games before we start talking about playoffs. Let's see how the nose tackle situation works out and see if we can get to the playoffs. That's good, Dan. That's gonna be our biggest hurdle is that one right there. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh, sorry.
Hey, this is Gerardo. I'm calling from.
Thank you, Gerardo. Hey, listen, you guys, we have 3 people in the queue. That's it. We're at the 8 o'clock hour, and I got to move up a little bit faster because we're supposed to do a 1 hour show, but I want to honor all you guys for being in the queue. Go ahead. Sorry, Gerardo. Go ahead.
Sure, I'll make it quick. So I think we're overthinking this. I know over dramatizing it. Just as you said earlier, it was going to be my point. The fish starts running from the head, and we already saw that what happened in Wisconsin. But at the same time, any good organization, so goes the leader, so goes the organization. And we paid a lot of money to bring in great coaches. Let's trust them. The universities are nonprofit organizations. I've been a director for a nonprofit organization, and you have to leverage your money and plan ahead, do strategic planning. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're looking at where can we get, it's been said all over again, the best bang for a buck. He said through the high schools, these people are smart people. And so I'm just like, I got my season tickets, and I can't wait for the season to come. Let's enjoy it. I think we're going to have a great season. And of course, we get frustrated. But even Pete Carroll's team, it took him a couple years. Okay, so we lost a year because of our defensive coordinator. We're behind the ball for a year or two, but it's coming. And that's all I wanted to share.
Yeah, great perspective. Let's put it this way really quickly, Gerardo. What if USC, instead of playing LSU and playing Notre Dame, what if they're playing Ball State and Akron? Do you know what I mean? What if we were doing one of those Big Ten specials?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So then we're looking at maybe...
Look at Alabama playing. Look at Alabama playing for their 10th game, playing a nobody, right? Mm-hmm.
That's my point. People are talking about SC's win total like SC's a horrible team. Built into that is the fact of who they're playing, when they're playing them, and where they're playing them. I mean, all these things do go in. People want to say, well, this is a 7-win team. This is an 8-win team. This 8-win team is better because they're saying they're going to win 7. They're going to win 8. They're trying to say, well, which team's better? It's not like that. These schedules aren't static, right? They aren't the same. USC didn't do themselves any favors with the schedule that they have. That we all know that. But I just do. Maybe I am completely missing something. But that is Lincoln Riley still calling the offense. There is, I don't want to jinx this because I said this last year. There's no way this defense is worse. I'm going to say it. I'm going to freaking say it. There's no way this defense is worse. And Absolutely. How many games did we win last year? It's not like this defense. We're going to talk about we're having Harmon is good for like 1, maybe 2 wins. This defensive improvement is good for at least 1 or 2 wins. I just. We have athletes everywhere on that defense.
Mm-hmm. And remember development. We were not developing kids before we are now. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So it's not, it's not a matter of going out and just paying for, for a very good player, not a great, player, but a very good player. It's about developing the kids. It's like, what is it, 60-40, 50-60, to bring success between buying and developing. So these are smart coaches. And we finally have a smart athletic director.
It's in our nature.
Hope the injuries don't hit hard. That's the thing.
But you know what, Matt? If injuries hit hard, injuries hit hard at key positions, your playoff run goes away as well. I mean, really, if you get hit,
very true. Very true.
That's why you want to have the extra piece. That's why you pay for the extra piece.
I get you, but I'm saying if you get hit hard enough with injuries, and it does happen, like look at, unless you're like at Ohio State in a rare situation where you go to your third quarterback and still that does not happen.
If you have if you have a Book of Job scenario, of course, but we're not talking about Book of Job scenario. We're just talking about on those fine margins. If you have a few injuries at the wrong position, boy, it's nice to have that extra piece you can plug in. That's really the conversation we're having.
And at positions that get worn down throughout the season, and again, if there's not the quality backing up, and you're not rotating that defensive line, sure, maybe they'll still be in the game in games 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But at what percentage? I mean, how much time these guys spend, on a training table, getting just taped up and ready to get out there and play, and not play nearly at 100%. No, I get you. And it kind of adds up. You start robbing Peter to pay Paul as the season goes along. The guys never get healed. They never get healthy, etc. I get all that. But yeah, thank you, Gerardo. Great call. Appreciate. I haven't heard from you in a while. Appreciate you calling in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right on. I feel like I just want to do a show where I'm just in the chat the whole time. Actually, because the chat is kind of live right now with some sauciness too, of all things. All right, we got one more call and we're out of here. Am I doing that right? I think we have one call. So we have this call right now, and I think we are done for the night. But I am. I think I'm going to do just a regular call show, not a call-in show, but where it's just basically just me talking to the chat. That might be interesting, Matt. Get a lot of screamed at in the chat. Maybe what I'll do is also some of these guys that like to leave comments. By the way, we appreciate all of your comments. Maybe I should have a show where we go through the comments because we get some good ones, Matt. Some of these guys love us. Okay. Hi, sorry, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's up, guys? It's Will.
Will, how you doing?
Will.
Doing good. You guys might laugh me off for this idea, but I'll throw it out there. Do you think it could be possible for college football to actually do like a salary cap like the NFL, NBA do? Do you think that could work? Or
I don't know the legal side of it. I think there's gonna be some kind of soft cap, or there's gonna be some agreement or so. I don't know how you do it again without getting exemptions. I mean, I'll pass the Matt on this one. He's our congressional what's the word I'm looking for here? What's the word I'm looking for? He's our constitutional oh God, what's the phrase? Before I embarrass myself, go on. So tell us, Matt.
I am not a legal
constitutional authority.
I am not a legal or a constitutional scholar, but Will, I think I love the principle you're advancing, right? And I think a lot of us who come together on this show here at the Voice of College Football, a lot of us would agree with the basic idea of everyone should get paid the same for making a visit and for attending the school. Like there shouldn't be an imbalance in terms of, this guy is going to get, X amount of dollars just to commit to a school, and you have a far lesser amount of dollars at other schools. It should be the same to get in the door and for a visit as well on a smaller scale. Like there shouldn't be imbalances in terms of guiding the decisions players make to play at a school, right? because and Tim alluded to this earlier. Like, it shouldn't be a case of, well, I really would like to play for USC. I grew up in LA. I have a long history in Los Angeles. Proud Angelino family, multi-generational. I want to go to USC. That's where my heart is. But Phil Knight has 10 bajillion, kabillion, trillion, zillion dollars, so I'm going to get the paycheck in Eugene. It really shouldn't work that way. It should be, you choose the school that you really want to play at, with the money being equal there. And then I think that if Phil Knight or Ohio State's collectives want to splurge with extra money for performance-based bonuses, incentives, and they want to just stack up the rewards for leading Oregon to a conference championship, or leading Ohio State to a national championship, that's where the collectives, or the schools with the sugar daddies and the runaway boosters, like Texas A&M with the Oilmen, or Miami with John Ruiz. If guys want to spend hundreds of millions of dollars showering players with performance bonuses, after they get inside the schoolhouse door, fine by me, because that they're rewarding performance. They're rewarding tangible things that have been achieved by these players who are entertainers. But I think if we're in terms of what school you attend, if we're going to at least maintain the pretense that education has some degree of value, that community has some degree of value, that going to the school where you grew up in the city where you grew up in has some degree of value, and it's not just a mercenary type activity on the front end where you choose to go to college to ostensibly get an education, I think that should be regulated. Now, in terms of the legalities, in terms of the feasibility, like that's the stuff I'm not educated about that, but I would like to have that. And I think, Will, you're saying kind of the same thing. And I think that when most people say salary cap, I think that's what they mean, right? That money shouldn't determine where you go to school. Money should determine how, if you want to get performance bonuses, for the things you achieve on the field. I think that's where we can have imbalances. But at the front end, when you choose a school, that should be regulated such that money is not this major swing factor in a decision.
I think we're moving too we're moving
yeah.
too far. We're moving too far away from what this was actually supposed to be. I don't think it was congressional. Like I don't think there were the courts and everything was saying that you have to pay them money. I think you couldn't stop them, right, from earning name, image, and likeness. None of the things we're discussing anymore have to do with name, image, and likeness. It has to do with touchdowns, interceptions, and sacks, and it has to do with performances and performance out. It has to do with, hey, we want you to come to our school. You haven't done anything. Here's $400, even though no one knows your name, and you probably won't ever talk about return on investment, Adam, or who was it? It wasn't Adam. Dave. The return on investment, these guys getting millions of dollars for whatever they're doing, they're not. These are a sham. You know what I mean? And some are just flat out getting paid. That's not what this was supposed to be. And I do believe there's a way to get back to saying, okay, this is college football. We can't stop you from getting endorsements, and you can't do this stuff. But I think there has to be a way also that, companies aren't just going to throw money straight at these people. This is Nike. I don't know. It's just a whole big can of worms. That's not what it's supposed to be, Matt. It's not supposed to be, hey, listen, if you lead the country, if you lead the conference in rushing, you get an extra $150,000 bonus. That's not what this was all supposed to be. It was supposed to be still college football. But listen, if you're Reggie Bush, and let's say you want to sign with a marketing agency to make money because the number 5 jersey is selling hotcakes in Southern California, that's what it was supposed to be about. And stipends, maybe they should have given these guys a higher stipend, maybe given them some profit sharing, whatever. But paying them money, I think it's a step too far. I'm for the kids getting money, but I'm not for them getting like salaries and this and that. Because then again, that's what professional football is. All right. Will, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't want Phil Knight and John Ruiz to turn into the fake Mansour and Roman Abramovich. I don't want these teams to start winning just because they're spending money. I just want it to be as even as it can.
I'm surprised the
Just
oil
the
money
mon-
hasn't
monetary
kicked in as
aspect.
much as I thought it was going to. I mean, you know, there's certain schools. I mean,
Yeah.
what if T. Boone Pickens was still around? I mean, hell, you know, he would have been there. Phil Knight. You would have seen the Cowboys winning. You know, they would probably be running away with the Big 12. So I mean, yeah, that's not what this was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be who has the richest billionaire that loves football. You know, that wasn't supposed to be what this is. So, that's my 2 cents. All right,
Yeah.
well,
I agree. Thanks, guys. Going to the USA soccer game tomorrow. Hopefully we win. And yeah, just excited for the season. Can't come fast enough.
all right.
Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Thanks for calling, Will. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Good luck to your Irish or 11 games of the season next year. All right, Matt. I think we're good. I turned off the phone line. Really quickly, guys, thank you all for being here. If you are still here, 95 of you are. If you could hit that like button for us and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Appreciate everyone being here every Friday night at new time, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern time. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, you want to go over and check out the recruiting sites because this is a pretty exciting weekend right now for USC. There are a number of guys, and if you haven't already, I'm not sure what you're waiting for, but Matt's turning out. I don't know about my stuff, but Matt every single week is turning out some pretty darn good stuff over at Trojans Wire. Matt, anything exciting specifically you want to share with as far as stories this week?
Not really. I mean, like we're waiting to publish some stories on football recruiting splashes. So, you know, if stories break Saturday and Sunday, Trojans Wire will be on it. So that's really the thing that we're looking at.
Yeah, these are mine. I'm getting ready I want to announce like some actual commitments, you know. I can't wait for that to hit. But that should be
That's
coming
what we're
pretty
waiting
soon.
for. Yep. We're all waiting for those.
And then also you guys, where was it? I wanted to show you. Also, make sure that you guys are checking out. If you guys are on Twitter, you're not already checking out Arrogant Nation. I feel like I'm at the campus because Rusty is putting out a lot of the tweets, kind of consolidating a lot of the tweets actually. Where well, here I'll show you. If I can find it. There we go. So like there are tons of recruits just piling in. Here's Andrew Marsh, the wide receiver. He's just going through, just slowly going. You can feel the peel. Well, you get also some ribbing, but he's just going through all the different players that are showing up at SC. Go check it out. Also, one more thing. On Monday, we are going to have Mark here for Trojan Conquest Live. That starts also at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern. And then Adam, sorry. So let's hit Adam's really quick, Matt, before we get out of here. All right. I feel like I'm taking an SAT, Matt. It's too late on a Friday for this, Adam, but I'm going to try to do this. So guys, if Team A played Georgia, Notre Dame, and Texas and went 2-1, losing to Georgia, and Team B played Army, Mississippi State, and Iowa State, going 3-0, who would you rank higher and why? I mean, I think that's the obvious answer is just the strength of the teams you're playing. Unless I'm missing something, Matt, I'm going all day long with the fact that I'm not impressed by wins over Army, Mississippi State, and Iowa. I don't care you lost to Georgia. If you beat Notre Dame and Texas, you're clearly the team that I want to rank higher.
Yeah, no question about it. Now here's where it gets tricky, Adam. You know, if we're just doing 3 games in isolation, yeah, you go with the strengths of schedule. But if we get to the end of the season and the team that beat Army, Mississippi State, and Iowa State gets 2 of its own high-end wins and goes 13-0, and Team A, despite beating Notre Dame and Texas, is 12-1, then Team B with the 13-0 gets in over the 12-1, and it brings up the point. Like if you go 13-0 with some high-end wins, like you can't just play cupcakes the whole way. Like I think we'd agree on that. If you go 13-0 and you have played some really tough teams, you get in over 12-1 because 13-0 you've done everything you're supposed to. 12-1 you haven't done everything you're supposed to. And that's why 13-0 versus 12-1 is a totally different conversation from 12-1 versus 11-2. Because if you both have at least one loss, an 11-2 team with 2 or 3 high-end wins gets in over a 12-1 team that doesn't have a high-end win. So those are the nuances of that conversation, Adam.
This is what I wanted. Actually, I was looking for earlier. And then also, you guys remember, just recently, Reggie got his a trophy back. As the actual, USC received the trophy. So I'm only counting 7. I'm wondering, are they going to walk the 8th in with Reggie himself? I don't know. But there's this is the event that's going on probably as we speak, or probably it was already over on campus. Clearly at the Coliseum, already not on campus for the official visit weekend. But there are 19 pretty spectacular players coming to SC. I mean, it's the who's who, led by someone was in the chat saying that Julian Lewis is not coming to USC. He literally basically said, and he's been saying, if you read what his family's been saying all along, nothing is done with NIL. Anything could happen, etc. But he's been very consistent on his messaging that's coming from him on why he chose USC, and he basically said, why am I going to USC? I'm going to USC because of Lincoln Riley. And that's the same thing he and his father have been saying since the very beginning. And if you're a quarterback and you're not coming to USC to play for Lincoln Riley, I would question whoever's giving you advice. Because even if it's $1 million more, let's say USC is going to give you 800 to $1 million, and then let's say this other school's going to give you $2 or $3 million. You're talking about becoming the first round draft pick, in 3 years. Whatever millions they're giving you, whatever school it is not going to be able to touch that. But Matt, there's a lot of people questioning USC and what they're doing. I'm not saying USC's to get all these guys, but if you look at most of them, I mean, Petty John's one of the better linebackers in the country. Justin Hill's a name that is probably not going to come to USC, but as long as you're attracting the players that are coming, right, you're going to hit on some of these guys. And USC defensively for years has always gotten the top names in football. One thing when I look at this list, though, is you don't see a lot of the top California guys on the list. Is the one thing is always kind of been hitting me with USC, but I think that's something that's just changing. So keep an eye on that. I know it's been a big story with everybody, but you just don't see a lot of the top. Now, granted, I've said this before, the ranking services, the 3 major ones, are all in Tennessee. And you know what my stance on the star rankings, I'm more than happy with whatever the staff's going after. Matt, I know I kept you late. We're going to get out of here, but appreciate you. Any final thoughts before we do get out of here?
No, just hopefully we'll get some recruiting splashes and we'll write about them at Trojans Wire.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's good. The news is going to come fast, you guys. So make sure, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and hit the like if you appreciate any part of the show. Subscribe button down here. Thank you guys all so much. We will definitely see you guys at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern on the Monday Night Show with Mark Rogers. Until then, he's my editor, Matt, and I'm Tim Prangley. We'll see you guys all on Monday. Thank you guys all for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.